Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to a very interesting panel discussion on generative AI and corporate workload to address the security and privacy. Today, we have a very esteemed panelist with us, Mr. Abilash Soundararajan, who is a founder and CEO at PrivaSapien, Mr. Manojkumar Parmar, who is a founder and CTO at AI Shield, and our moderator, Mr. Vinayak Godse, who is the CEO at Data Security Council of India. The panelists will share their insights with us. Looking forward to hear from them. Welcome all the panelists. Over to you, Vinayak.
Yeah, thank you, Srishti, for setting up the discussion, and Abilash and Manoj for agreeing to join us in this discussion. So, since last 2 weeks, we have been doing multiple conversations in this area. We had one meeting of CISOs, then we met DPOs, we had one DSA membership interactions on this area. We also are talking to sectoral players in different areas, and we also thought that, as I know work both of you have been doing in the area of data privacy, more importantly, the kind of technology piece that you're building to help organization in this area of generative AI. Basically, we'll talk about that first later on, but there's definitely interest, and one of the important part of this interaction that we are saying is the corporate workload going to the LLM. So 5-6 years back, and since then we have been talking about corporate workload going to cloud, but now we are talking about on a LLM, whether it's a private LLM or public LLM or cloud LLM. So we'll talk about that. But before we go to that interactions and discussion, let me ask you first of all, tell us what you have been doing as your until now the work that you have been doing. I'll start with Manoj and then Abilash, and then we'll come to the topic of today's discussion. So Manoj, starting with you.
Sure. So first of all, Vinayak, thanks for having us here. It's a very interesting and, let's say, exciting place to be, that we are living in this kind of a world where when on December 5th, when the news hits that the ChatGPT has 1 million users, fastest in the history, and fast forward in the 4 months, 150 to more than more than 150 organizations are thinking to partner with OpenAI, partnered and started launch there some of the products and started using into the, let's say, productivity improvement areas. I don't see that I have seen anything like this, even though I'm just 35 years, but at least neither it was in the 2000, neither it was in 2010, nothing. It is fantastic. So it has blown our mind. But if anything that history has to tell us, it always that once this technology becomes a mainstream, then the real issues comes, like privacy, security, the latencies and things like this. So I think that cycle also here has been very fast, so quite overwhelming. So my name is Manoj.
Manoj, help us there what you have been doing until now, and then we'll come.
Oh yes, I'm so overwhelmed, so I just wanted to talk about that as well at the onset. But yes, my name is Manoj. I lead the AI Shield, which is a startup from Bosch, which specializes in securing the AI systems. Our vision is to secure the AI systems of the world, and it was before LLM as well, and with LLM. So this is what we do. I have been like mostly 13 years working with Bosch. Before that, 1.5 years with NVIDIA. Have 30 plus patents, led previously 2 different business units, mainly focusing on to the physical products, with obviously the software is at the core. And in 2019 onwards, that I started to look into the newer areas, and one of the area that I picked up was the AI Shield. It's an interesting place also, that there also the same pattern that we have seen is that everyone was talking about the AI, and then later on the security became an issue. So we picked up that signal first, and then from that points onwards that we have built a technology. We have a product which we have launched, and happy to tell this all of these 30 plus patents were filed in India. And this is the product which is designed in India, and it is serving the worldwide customers as well. So that's about AI, a little bit about me.
So this work that you have been doing is what? Did you look at the algorithm, or it will? So what kind of capabilities that all this patent and this technology that we had? What kind of capabilities that you are building, and or delivering to them.
Yeah. So the capabilities that we are building is that if I just have to go into the basics, right? For an example, for any software that you develop, at the very end, before deployment, you actually do a penetration testing, and before that, you do a security testing kind of things. Now, this is very standardized process. Humans are involved, and the code only presents a very minimum kind of let's say, this attack surfaces. But when it comes to the AI, the attack surfaces are so wide and open that you don't even know how to figure this out, how to test it, all of these things. And we faced this problem early in 2019-20. Out of that, we developed these capabilities, first of all, that how to probe the models for security vulnerabilities. And there are different kind of security vulnerabilities because the attack surface is the data. You can have exactly the two same models, but they both will have a different kind of vulnerabilities because they have been trained on a different kind of data. And this creates a big issues that you can't standardize this particular thing, and that means humans have to be there. This was our journey, that we developed first all of these intuitions, technologies, everything, but then we realized that this is not going to really scale. So then we focused our effort in creating in a product which is a delivery method for all of this automatic testing, as well as figuring out what kind of issues are there and providing a risk score. So this is the capability which is there. And today it is so easy that in a 5 minute, any developer can simply write a 3 line of code, integrate our API inside their workflow, and it will automatically do all the interactive testing on your model, finish it, and it will give you the report. And if need be, it will also generate an antivirus for your model. So we also went through the end-to-end cycle where we realized that, okay, solving part of a problem is not going to cut through in this phase. You have to do end-to-end only. So that was another capability of creating an endpoint defenses for your AI model, which is the last layer of defense. So all of these capabilities which was developed, that was wrapped inside the product. So that's
So
it.
the capabilities are like, one is the adversarial things which can happen on model, or sometimes somebody would have requirement of creating transparency. So
Yes.
what are those you check as a part of these capabilities?
Correct. So at the top level, in a trustworthy aspect, so under the broader umbrella of a TEVE, which is the testing, evaluation, verification, validation, we check mainly the 5 categories. One is the performance, which includes the accuracy, timing, all of this. The second is the explainability. The third is the bias. The fourth is a fairness, and fifth is a drift. These are the traditional 5 attributes that everyone checks. And sixth attribute, which we started, was the security, which everyone talked about, and we added this 6 attribute. Now, so these are the 6 key attributes of the AI models that you need to test. And security also has a let's say, the further sub attributes, which is like, is your model vulnerable against evasion? Is that somebody can fool your model and may allow, or let's say, make it to do wrong decisions? Somebody can poison your training sample. To give an example, 2015 when 16 when Microsoft launched the first chatbot called Tay on internet, on Twitter, and people just started feeding it in such a poisonous data, or let's say the criminal intent data, that it became a racist, and then they have to take it down. So the poisoning attacks are also there. And then, as an organization, if you have deployed a model which is very unique and high value in asset, then attackers has an issue that they can try to extract your model. It's like a reverse engineering. So there are multiple attributes which are there. And then there are deniability attacks which are also there. That means if you can somehow, I can slow down the response of the model, then it brings down to the deniability. So classic CIA triads, confidentiality, integrity, and availability triads applied to the AI model is what is there inside the security. But at the same time, when we have done the security, we were also able to establish the baseline parameters for the explainability. That means we can tell that at a baseline up to 90% of a confidence how your model is working. The second is fairness and bias. We are able to probe the fairness and bias also at a first level, and the drift detection and poisoning is also there. So security first approach for the trustworthiness is what we have mastered as a whole, and those
Now
capabilities are available.
Gartner also talk about now AI application security as a new category, right? And you fit into that category.
Yes, yes, and the Gartner recently in January when they have launched. Thank you for reminding me. It says, Vinayak, you are more informed about my product than I really want to talk about. So yes, So Gartner released their the second report, which is called AI-driven, which is trustworthy risk and security management report. And within that, they have created in a new category, which is called the AI application security. And this AI AppSec is the new category which is created, and AI Shield is recognized under that category. So loosely, we can say that we are the part of a category creator startups in this, which is a very rare thing to have. It also has its own burden that we have to educate everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So now coming to Abilash, so we will certainly come to LLM, but help us understanding the work that you have been doing until now, and then quickly then we'll move to the LLM as well.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very exciting area, and thank you for having us in part of the discussion. So we are working in privacy engineering technology or privacy enhancing technology space. We have been interacting with you for from the beginning, almost from the beginning of the journey. So this is an area where we have to understand about the privacy risks involved in data before it gets exposed to any kind of automated processing downstream. While the amount of information which can be stored in a neural network or a large language model is different, the data that is being exposed to these models or any kind of automated processing is the responsibility of the data controller, and we primarily come to it from that perspective. So the products that we have built two products which we have been working on, and we have been multiple customers, both European, US, and Indian customers are all using it. So the objective is to first visualize the privacy risk in data. It's not just classifying the PIIs, but understanding different kinds of privacy attacks which can happen on the data, even if you remove PIIs. For example, singling out risk, linkage risk, inference risk, outlier risk, collective privacy risk on data. How do you visualize it? Because today, as a DPO, he's like a microbiologist without a microscope, right? You have to understand, how do you understand the risk without even see, with plain eyes, you cannot understand it. And you are today, as a DPIA, people are filling a checklist, even if it's a software based, at the end of the day checklist. So how do you understand these privacy attacks in the data and take a decision how to expose or reduce the attack surface on the data before you enable the flow of data to downstream models or downstream parties, because you have no control on what kind of learnings can happen on the data and what kind of memorizations and erasability can be guaranteed on the data. It's a very big concern. So we worked on this first product called Privacy X-Ray, and this is for businesses, and this is a very important part of data protection impact assessment, which can be done globally. As we were discussing in the earlier conversation as well, this is more of a category creating product as well. Globally, we are integrating privacy threat models. The first of its kind probably globally is Linden privacy threat model. We even hosted a discussion with DSCI earlier with the privacy threat model framework. So we integrate these privacy threat models into our algorithm and do the risk assessment and provide a risk score for businesses connected to the data pipelines so that they can visualize and take decisions according to that. So this is on one side. On the other side, okay, now that I know the risk, how do I mitigate the risk in sharing or collaborating with data? There is the entire PET spectrum which is coming up, which is where our expertise is. And this is a spectrum of technology starting from input privacy to output privacy, where input privacy you have technologies like zero knowledge proof, multi-party compute, etc. on the input privacy side, and on the output privacy side you have differential privacy, k anonymity, federated learning, and other things on the output privacy side. So we started with input privacy, then we found that it's very actually difficult to implement and more difficult to observe, more like things like blockchain verifiable claims, which are much more difficult to observe in business ecosystems because it requires a collaborative kind of a landscape. So we moved to output privacy. This is like a year and a half back, and Vinayak sir, the journey. So we started there, and then we did this k anonymity, differential privacy kind of privacy preservation of data before you expose it to downstream models. So some of them are currently being used in large language models as well in privacy preservation. So we do that today. We have in our product called Event Horizon. So if somebody is building a large language model or any analytics model for that perspective, and They don't have consent for multiple processes, because you don't even know exactly what are going to be the utility of data on top of it. So this can be of very significant help. So these we do today, and we are, of course, we are building on a data governance framework for large language model, which is an ongoing effort. But yeah, these are things that we are working on, and as Manoj was saying, this is really exciting times to live, and yeah, we are super thrilled about it. And also association with DSCI, where we are getting to interact with a lot of very exciting, enthusiastic people at policy level or industry level or an ecosystem level. So that's very high level what we are doing
So,
today.
Abilash, I'm going to, because you have been talking in the context of LLM. So LLM, when we talk about, is either private LLM or enterprise LLM or cloud LLM and then public LLM basically. So when you're putting some of your corporate work there, right? So I can understand the thing that you have been doing until now is largely the thing that you are helping them to improve their algorithm for the privacy, right? And also trying to see how best they can use it for to achieve the privacy goal, even if they want to do analytics and any kind of digital operation, basically. So now help us understanding from the context of this data that we are putting on. One is public, another is the enterprise private. Basically. Abhilash, we'll start with you. Here with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So public and private LLMs, it's hugely potential. There are a lot of people who are beginning to explore. There are a lot of private large language models which are getting published, and people are exploring it, which has its own trainability, amount of data set available. All those are a big challenge. And one of the primary challenges, as we saw in case of public LLMs, this is more like, it connects me to the blockchain days, where you have public blockchains and private blockchains, and there are things which are sort of intermediary, then smart contract based and things like those. But the foundational point, if you look at it across the large language models, is training the model, the data that you need to train the model, the learnings that you get, and what the utility, of course, is a very important part of it. But there is also a friction against the privacy and other regulatory requirements and governance requirements which come along with this model building. So what kind of data are you using to train? Because once you become certain, go beyond a certain size, these are going to be a clear differentiation whether this is going to take off or not. If you're looking at a private LLM, right? If you are building up, even for an enterprise level, it depends upon what customers you are looking at, what kind of queries they are going to run, what answers they are going to get, and how sensitive it is. These are very critical aspects of building a large language model, and it's going to be a spectrum like very similar to blockchain. It's going to be different purpose specific LLMs also gonna come, which will have, for example, serving customers alone, LLMs for CRM, probably updating CRMs, or LLMs for chats which are local, which will not violate privacy, sharing data externally and things like those, and public large language models. Even in public large language models, there are two variants. For example, the UI front, the most popular one today is ChatGPT. So there are two options. One is the UI side of it, one is the API side of it, and they provide different levels of regulatory guarantees for both. It's like chalk and cheese. One is free, so you are a product, as we typically say, when it is free, you are the product. There is no guarantee. The maximum penalty or liability that ChatGPT provides on its legal document is $100, even if it's be an organization which is doing it, or where it's an individual who is doing it. So this is very less. And it's not just that, it's not just the input, but input and output are considered as content, output including the completions, right? It is your responsibility. They are not responsible. So if you are asking a privacy violating question and you are getting a privacy violating answer, it is your prompt, or the way you have socially engineered the prompt is responsible for the response, is what they are claiming, and you are agreeing to it and using the service. So at the end of the day, whether it is public or private, this learning, this recommendation, everything is the user's responsibility in the legal language in the code. So organizations have to be cognizant of it and accordingly use this in their ecosystem,
Yeah,
whether they are training on their data.
Abilash, so I just want to make a distinction here. So many times you will be not um, training it, right? So these LLMs are available for you to use, right? Um, uh, I know those who are building these LLMs, for them to make sure of how they build model and how they make sure that data they are using it, data they are collecting it, if it is legitimate, personal data has been. But in context of use, because most of us and those people join here are using it basically. So in context of the use, so how do you see things? So you talk about from the use perspective, you talk about UI based or API based. So let's let's try to understand from the context of use of LLMs basically. So can you focus on, because all of us are using it. Some of us may be building it, but we are not really sure about that. If you are using it, then that use context, can you just throw some light?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So from a user perspective, we did some research to understand what kind of risks are present. So if you ask, what are the top 10 secret projects Cisco is working on with Pentagon or any two organizations, for that example, in API, it is giving an answer, while it is not giving an answer in UI. It provides a very political difference saying that we won't be able to provide sensitive information, but while it's providing the answer in the API. So you are giving your data for somebody who is paying to learn about it while you are using it for free is a very underlying thing. We don't know, and ChatGPT says that the content is not its responsibility. So when you are putting a query, when you are saying that, okay, check my code, I am working for this company, help me write this email for this company, I'm writing a proposal for this company which is $5 million deal, now help me write an email. Now you don't know what it is learning. It is learning that you are in this company and you are working on a proposal with this company, and this is of this size, and this is the project which is coming up. Now you don't know how much it is learning, how much it is storing, how much it is processing, how much it is sharing with other party. This is the biggest risk an organization has today. So there is nothing called IP anymore. If we allow every department, sales department is putting its query and then trying to understand how they can respond better, but they are sharing all the sales information to ChatGPT, which is becoming public. Same with research, same with code development. So if we do all this with ChatGPT, this risk is directly, this information is going public and you don't know what is being learned, what is being showed, what is being shared. Because if you look at the legal agreement, ChatGPT says that we are not responsible for anything. Right? So it becomes very, very important that you take care of your data. Like you put a DLP, you put a IDS, IPS, antivirus, anti-spam, firewall on one side, and the other side you are like opening up everything and everything is flowing. So this needs to be solved, and it's a very fundamental problem.
Yeah. So Manoj, now coming to you with the same question is like, so if as an organization I'm using it, right, and we Abilash talked about the issues and problem basically that we all encounter. There is a security, IP, to certain extent privacy issues are there basically, right? So if somebody is using it and trying to put a cloud workload, and that workload could be a code being put there to something like you are asking it to write a proposal to, even sometimes some people are asking it to write a mail for their client for a particular context, right? So workload of varied nature. In fact, I was talking to a BPO call center. The agents are asking it better way to uh, insurance claim, for that matter, better process to uh, approve or disapprove insurance process, and which is a deviation from the current process they have been looking at basically. So such kind of workload is going there basically, right? So how is one see the challenges of security and privacy? How is someone can see that this workload is not creating the problem that Abilash has talked about?
Yes. So that's a very interesting thing. So we have worked directly with many organizations in the last 3 months on this particular issue. And what simple pattern is coming out is that first of all, we understood that what kind of a workload organizations are willing to first transfer to the LLMs and what is the mechanism. So if I just have to draw a 2x2 grid, I see that if there is this workload is having a top line impact, revenue generation activity, or the bottom line impact. This is the first thing. And second is that, is it the enterprise grade kind of a thing or not so enterprise grade kind of the things kind of thing. So when you make this 4 quadrants,
talking from organization perspective, right? It's like,
yes, I am talking from organization perspective who wants to really use the let's say the LLM, whichever method. But these are the 4 use cases which goes into all of this quadrant. Impact on enterprise grade things for the bottom line, and this is where we see the maximum workload which are going, which is mainly for the productivity improvement. The case that you have talked about, the BPO, better claim writing, and all of this thing, it is that how I can let's say by 10 agents can write 50 proposals rather than 20 proposals. So these are the kind of workloads which are going there. So this was the first thing, and the second part which we identified is that what is the best mechanisms that they are using for this, and we differentiated 4 different deployment models which organizations are willing to use. So chat GPT is what is the user facing, but for enterprises there are multiple ways to access the same thing. So one of the enterprise where we worked in, they actually blacklisted the chat GPT completely, but at the same time they have asked a third party app to create an entire chatbot utilizing this API where they had a control on all of those particular thing, right? So it is the cautious way to use it. So this was the one thing. Then another case,
can you just repeat that way again? It's for the benefit of the people so that underline get underlined. So
correct.
Yeah.
So for an example, if I just have to give let's take a case of the insurance agents who are just processing the claim, right? So they, on their terminal, the chat GPT was blocked, but this organization created an intermediate mechanism where there was another chatbot which was utilizing the chat GPT, or let's say the GPT-3's API, which was allowed. And now when all the interactions to the GPT was monitored and regulated, this is what is means for users. So organizations wanted to use it, but they wanted to have a full control, like you put up a firewall or any kind of a thing, right? So this is the kind of another mechanisms that we have seen that organizations are working with. And then there are, in the long tail, there are different mechanisms which are also there. So as a user, when you use outside the enterprises, it is like having a Gmail at home for you, and in office you have an Outlook. Both serves a same purpose of sending an email, but both comes with a different kind of configurations and things. So chat GPT's application, which is available, it is more like a Gmail, free, everything is there. But obviously if your Gmail is hacked, nobody cares about it, so you have to be really caring about it. Similarly with the chat GPT is what Abilash was trying to say, as a end user I have to take responsibility. But can I do the same thing in enterprise? No. So I need an enterprise grade kind of a solution to take this leverage this benefit. So this was the second insight that we got, that how the organization somehow at the forefront are tackling it, that is banning the chat GPT's things but putting their kind of an application. And when they started,
I'm very much interested to go double click or drill down on banning, right? So you can ban for that the URL of a chat GPT, but there are thousands of applications coming, right? And underlying they may be using chat GPT. So how do you go about banning? So banning until now is like mostly at URL filter, you use it and you ban that particular URL filter, but every day. So,
so basically what has happened over the period of time is that generally it is blocked at the firewall level, enterprise firewall level itself. There is nothing else. And then there is the standard open APIs things which are gets blocked, and then there are third party applications which are there which also gets blocked, because everyone whomsoever is using this kind of solutions to provide, they're already publishing. So it's just a open source intelligence. If you do OS int, and if you say that the chat GPT API based products, you will get in a whole list of this. So today that count is somewhere around 790. So these are the 790 URLs that this organization has blocked it. And their team's whole job, one person's job, is that which all the new tools are coming and just blocking them. So if you want to use it, you use only ours, everything else is blocked. So these are the kind of mechanisms that they have done. But I also understand they as the organizations things, because they have a huge liability issues for various use cases. In the code development where they want to use it, they want to ensure that the code which are coming does not have an IP infringement things. And another use case where they want to use it, they want to differentiate the role-based access to it. For an example, there are certain privacy-related information is only available to one group because it is needed for their job to be done, while the other group should not have an access. So even within organization, they need to have a role-based, that the ability.
You are coming to a very interesting point. So how do you manifest this role-based access to this, right? So
Yes.
so
So these are the same old problem coming here.
so intermediary chart they have created
Yes.
is as good as the application which is providing you that access, but would that application would take care of all of these kind of nuances that is required in the organization?
Yes. So that is why this organization that we have worked with, and then we also deployed the similar thing for the other organizations. What we realize, it is essentially a DMZ concept, demilitarized zone. So you need to ensure that organization and that LLM, whichever that you are interacting, there is a DMZ zone, and within this DMZ zone, there is somebody who is actually doing the monitoring of all of these things which are happening. So it's the same old classic concept coming back, but in a different context. Same role-based things are coming back in a different context, and again the use case base is coming into different context. So for an example, this organization created in three different applications. One which was specific for the code development, one which was there for the healthcare related applications. I'll not go into the detail, and one more which was there was main for the, let's say, their operational related things, like an internal chatbot or anything. So there were three applications which they created, and all three had a different kind of settings to be really worked on. So if you really go back, the CIO and CISO were like scratching their heads, like, oh, now we understand that how much work that we will have to do if we want to gain that the productivity gain that for that. So the real cost is hidden from the user. It is born
Yeah,
at organization
Very
level.
important for all the users here. So important and critical here. It should bring it to the enterprise.
uh, Vinayak, I'm losing you. I was not able to hear you.
Is it okay now?
Yes, it is much better.
So this is like for the benefit of the participants here. We have to bring it to the enterprise level and make sure that you apply all these paradigm of the control base or
Yes.
this context that we have in terms of the use of this capability, right? So that is not inbuilt, right? As of now, it is like either APR, it's mostly the GUI that you have basically, right, for this one, and that cost is a additional cost, and probably you need to build. So we used to have this gateway, right? So my question is, can you have the gateway which could help you to leverage all this capability available there, but at the same time uh, transition all of these controls that we use in an enterprise context to that paradigm that we are looking at actually. So can there be a one stop kind of a gateway which is helping you to, like a firewall, helping you to manage this basically?
Yes. And if you permit me, I would be more than happy to talk about my solution which exactly does this thing, because we realized all of these problems from the forefront. So
Yeah.
we have built a solution which is called Guardian, which is essentially a guardrail for the enterprises to adopt LLM. uh, and what it does is that it understands the contextuality, that who is talking, what they are talking to this LLM, and then it fetches the all the role based policy related controls and applies on that particular conversations in real time, as well. So this is what the solutions that we have built and that we have actually deployed also. We finished the cohort 1 with our design partners with the 3 different organizations, and now we are actually starting the cohort 2. And Vinayak, thank you for bringing me here, because this is also the opportunity that all of my previous design cohort was outside India, and I wanted to really put this into the India. And so I am more than open for any of the participants who want to explore the Guardian. We are recruiting for the cohort 2, and I will put up in a link here as well. So if any of the organizations who want to do the safe experimentation with LLM, and also to take it for the scaling also, the Guardian is there to support. And currently we are not charging it. So it's a free kind of a thing, because we also want to learn. And our previous learning was tremendous with these three organizations that we have crystallized. And the next set, we are looking for the other aspect. For an example, for India, we have built an automatic filtering in Hindi. So Abilash, this would be interesting. So if you ask the chat GPT in a English, which is say that tum kaun ho, it will actually start pumping out the information, which is PII information, but it is never able to catch because all of the content moderations and everything is built for the English. It doesn't work for the English. And this is also a very interesting problem that we have found it out, because they are multilingual in nature. So the Guardian also does this. So if you ask tum kaun ho to the chat GPT, it will tell you everything in Hindi, saying that मैं ये हूँ, मैं ये करती हूँ, and at the end says that I will be able to help you. And then you ask what is your name, it will give somebody's name again from the India. And I have verified that some of the name that it throws, they are actually the real people's name which are there in the India as well, because it doesn't understand. So now this kind of very specific situations that will also come, and we are there to help and support that as well. And if the time permits, at a later on, I would like to show the real demo of the things which are working, where you can ask any kind of a question, and then it will straight away say that this input is blocked and this input is allowed. So kind of things, and it works today for code related aspects, banking related aspects, healthcare, for chatbot, document summarizations, and code generation. So this is the kind of a matrix that is there, Vinayak.
Yeah, that's very interesting, Manoj. Um, uh, so we are just had been discussing about the challenges and how do we deal with this paradigm, but people are blocking. But many times we are hearing that the businesses are pushing them to open it up actually, right? And um, one of the key thing which is happening, Abilash, I want to come to you on this particular part is, see, until now we had corporate AI projects, right? And we have seen fintechs and health techs, and so a lot of those kind of organizations are helping to solve a particular business problem, like bank has a problem of offering the loan, and now with some fintech they will reduce down the time to 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour from the days used to be taken basically. So that particular startup or bank's own operation would be itself will be finding information about the particular user and from the cyberspace. So what I'm saying is, in case of a typical enterprise context, until now there was a relation that we had established. There is an established relation with the data, right? Data are largely four types of data. One is the data that you have, it's like historical data that you have. Secondly, data you are collecting now, and then data that you are basically generating, because you will transaction, you generate data. Fourth is the data that you get. And all of these four contexts, basically, you can be either data controller, data processor, basically. And then we started using the startups who can help us to get some data and improve some the productivity or give better experience to customer, or create a new possibility for us, basically, right? But then entire cyberspace is giving that data. For some fintechs are using it. This data is not some. There is no relation that you can establish with the data, right? It is available. Somebody is crawling it, and then that data is being used to provide you those capabilities, basically. Now, until now, the corporate AI projects was largely in that context, but suddenly now planetary scale collection of data, and most of data until now is a publicly available data. It's not like a specific private data collected, basically publicly available data. And now somebody is build the planetary operations on those data. Now billions of nodes are there, and you can put a question and can give answer to you, basically. So in this context, and then we are getting mesmerized because the enterprise is realizing this AI is much better compared to the AI that I built, right? And that's why corporate workload is going there, basically. Whereas this is made to collect and process the the publicly available data, and we are using it. The policies of the current LLMs would be largely meant for a developer, which is not a part of enterprise, to improve his productivity in development, right? Coding. And now enterprises are using it. And now enterprises are looking at my code is going and my data is getting lost, and now I have a problem with the policies. So now here the relation with the data is difficult, and the purpose is also very difficult to establish. And now you are using that entire intelligence available at a planetary scale to solve some of the use cases in corporate environment. So now corporates are asking this question, but my question here is for the privacy is at the end of this publicly available data. They build this LLM out of it. So why we are asking what is the privacy challenge in terms of if you are using this on a model which is largely use publicly available data to develop those kind of capabilities.
Okay, yeah, very interesting question, right? So the problem is we consider when we are, so difference, we'll have to think from a Google to what is the difference between Google to ChatGPT. We have to first understand the difference.
Yeah.
First there is data, then information, then knowledge, then you have wisdom. Google was collecting this data and building a page rank and then giving you information. So you type, you need something, it'll give you pages in an order that this is where you can find the information. It will not learn about it. So we populated all the information that we had in pages, blogs, etc. of what we know, whatever we know, we put it in blogs. So it was giving information references to others, which is very different. So the entire internet was considering that nobody is learning, but probably it will be structured and we will get some feeds. But now ChatGPT has jumped basically from this information level, not just to knowledge. Knowledge is, for example, learning Python. That's knowledge.
Yeah.
From there, they have jumped to wisdom of how to apply this knowledge in a specific context, which was not thought earlier when we were building all this. So one of the primary concerns which is coming up is that you have built a $50 billion company and it's going to take away jobs of so many people. Used based on my data, you are not even giving me credits, but you have learned from it and you are sharing this. It's going to take away a lot of jobs, but whose job, whom are you giving credit to? That is point number one. Point number two is, it is not just the information that you are learning from the internet. Let's say I can put, this is sensitive information, take my permission, then only use. And then I would have written something which is public. Right now, that is also going. Somebody is saying this content is, it's copyrighted. That's public, but they have put it at the bottom, this is copyrighted. Now you don't know how much of that is scraped, how much of it is learned, how much is given back. Nobody knows, and there is no, you cannot refer it back to a page saying that this was learned from here. Thank you to this page, I could answer this. So the whole legal context of where it learned from, who got credit for it, nothing is there today, which is a big problem, which was not there when you are just referring back to an information. So while the information source was built from this context, and now the entire context is that it's just becoming ChatGPT's information, is basically a very difficult problem to handle, and this is resulting in, and you will have to reskill people. Even prompt engineering is becoming the job of tomorrow. How many prompt engineers will you
now I want to definitely come to prompt engineering, because in the last version in December, the way the version was, that time prompt engineering wasn't a skill, right? And people start talking about the prompt engineering will become one of the important skills. But now the ChatGPT 4, it all had come to English, right? You did not have to have a very specific skill to write a prompt. It's the English language that you have to use, right? And while we are worried about job, I'm sorry, I'm taking to philosophical question, but just imagine to reach to this level of you and me using such kind of intelligence, right? Where we have education, we have experience, we understand all these things, we reach there. But now suddenly this is available, this wisdom that we earn with so many of things, and anybody want to get hold of this wisdom, they have to look at first the education, the experience, and they reach level to get access to the wisdom. So, but if you look at the empowerment of society here, right? So because it is available in conversational English language, including the now even in the language that they understand basically. So overall society empowerment is immense, right? So these barriers,
the value is immense, but prompt engineering is much more. The reason there is, we are getting our output whatever we want with a very basic way, right? For example, let us say you want to use MidJourney to draw an art, right? You want somebody standing with a specific background with a specific color or a 3D art. When I try to do it, I will come up with a cartoonish picture. But let us say somebody builds a skill to actually do it as an art. So artist is going to be a prompt engineer who sculpt every graphic picture of it the way he wants. So it can be, the prompt can be one-page prompt. and it would learn from it, and then it will
Yeah,
create a image which is needed.
prompt engineering is not something you need 4 years of engineering education and 10 years of 10
Yeah,
years of
No.
yeah.
experience to, right? So
In fact,
my because
in fact, there are
Mid Journey when I use Mid Journey 5 as well. So 5 is such a improved version, simple language you understand. Four was like difficult to compare basically. So that barrier is also collapsing. Is the my basic empowerment to society is immense basically. That we are asking, we come from security privacy, we are asking those pertinent questions, but on other side is definitely provide quite a significant. And uh, one question which Manoj I want to ask you as well, right? So now the real discussion about security, privacy, safety, and many things which is happening because corporates started using it basically, right? Otherwise, society is immensely getting benefit out of it basically. I know there is a definitely question of what Abilash talked about in terms of whose data they have collected. So those data subjects basically, or not even data subject, the IPR information which is out, the paper
Yes.
published paper, right, research paper, but research public is a public. That doesn't mean you use that research paper to create. So some of these questions, I'm not sure whether uh, there could be any fixed answer. Because other side, there's immense benefit the humanity is getting basically. This knowledge is liberated, not knowledge. Wisdom is liberated. So this I had
Yes.
Brahman is now liberated. So everybody is getting access to it basically. Right?
Yes.
So how build a guardrail? Um, now I'm talking societal context. Means we talked about enterprise. How do you build guardrail for
Mm.
we need to go to that level now. If I'm putting my website, I put up instructions about how that website's been information is being crawled or scrapped. So is there a way for societal level guardrail or individual level guardrail? Do we need that?
Yeah.
And what could be that actually?
So this is a very interesting question that there has to be a balance. Either side is bad.
Yeah.
This is what we have learned historically, right? So how do we balance this thing? Uh, Corporate are asking, and corporate has a different thing because they have the fundamental force that why they have to worry about is the law of a land,
Yeah.
which is the legal setting which they operate in, right? If my country, for an example, Italy, which has banned the chat GPT, now there is no way that you can use it. It's over. So now how do we ensure that we allow this benefit to be reaped by the masses, but at the same time protect them? It shouldn't
Yeah.
happen like one of them wins and it becomes a monopoly. Then it is, in a long run, it is societal harm, and this is what happens. So do we want it to go into that way or not? So antitrust laws, all of these things are designed from the game theoretic point of view to benefit all in a long run,
Yeah.
individual, not at the cost of the society. Today it might be good, tomorrow it might not be good, right? So why I'm saying this entire story, because you ask a philosophical question, and to tie it back to this is that yes, it is making it accessible, but it shouldn't be coming at the cost of our future generations.
Hmm.
Today you benefit and tomorrow then the future generation suffers, then it is not going to cut through. It's the same story within a climate change. It's the same story with Europe's privacy woes and everything which is there. So for the masses, I don't think that all of these companies are going to build anything until and unless policy changes happens at a top level. And this is where that the government regulators, the early adopters of this technology, DSCI, that we need to go into the dialogue that what we need to allow, and at the same time what we should not allow. It shouldn't happen that we allow it and then we have the issues. Like for an example, Samsung is in a beautiful case study. First
Yeah.
they banned it, they allowed it, people started misusing it, and then they figured it out that misusing, and they again banned it. It had no one at the end.
Yeah.
And then it actually justified their initial position that banning was good. And now God knows for how much time it will take to do it. So we need to go for the responsible thing. And this is where somebody has to
Now,
balance.
and that is what the today's discussion is. This dilemma is very strong, and we are
Yes.
talking uh, different people, and people are going to this means. I can understand if Samsung has the dilemma, then you can just realize many other organizations would have quite significant dilemma, right? So then if adoption is the thing, and adoption, people are also saying on the other side is, if you don't use it, then you lose it, right? Because then you lose that edge. Right? So then the question is, because regulators would be very cautious if they start regulating now. It's coming to more like a language, right? When language got invented, after thousands of years, people started putting the grammar rules on that, right? But if initial phase of language development, it would have put a grammar rules, it could have created a lot of challenges for us, basically, right? So that's why even if there is a strong, I can understand from Europe perspective, because they are very much regulation driven, but other societies will be cautiously looking at whether we should be really regulating or not regulating it. But if you're seeing from enterprise context, then do we have enough instrument? Do we have enough handle, so which can be leveraged, which can be used to put this workload on LLM while taking care of all these concerns that we have been looking at? And we have confidence that these instruments and these solutions, I know you will talk about guardrail that you have put together, but my question is, how much of the confidence? So yes, you may be solving some use cases, but there are multiple things which are coming, and hundreds of things coming every day, basically. So how much of confidence our enterprise can get with such kind of capabilities that you are building or others may be building? So that is some level of is there in terms of putting this workload.
Yeah. So when I wanted to bring this very interesting point that by banning, one of the problem that we are everyone is facing, that we are denying ourselves an ability to experiment.
Yeah.
This is the big loss. It's not that I don't even know, if you stop me to even experiment, I don't even know whether how I can actually work with it.
I'll tell you a good example. Like if you're asking me to ban putting code there, right? I'm seeing how developers are doing it. So developers writing those code there, they're seeing the result here. Accordingly, they're coding it here. So, so the other device available for them to use it. Basically, I'm exactly seeing actually now.
Yeah, that is what we have also seen, and that was also one of the frontal, thing is that if you ban it, people will figure out a way to use this particular thing. So banning is not going to be the thing, but what is needed is that can you create let's say the controlled environment for the safe experimentation also. If I just have to give a parallel to this, in the biotechnology, people do a lot of experimentation with the hazardous conditions, and then there are biosafety labs, right? The class 3 labs, class 4 labs, and there are certain different kind of rules which are applied. Now these are the kind of things that organizations we have started seeing doing it. These are the safe to experiment, okay, low control setting, I can trust. These are the high impact ones, not allowed, please don't do this, or these are the higher grounds, right? This is where that entire aspect of nuances comes in. And if we just do this binary position of a debate, allow not allow, I think it's not going to cut through. So we need to go into the detail and nuances. And I think from an Indian philosophy point of view, we love to balance everything, right? And so this is the game of balance, and if we can master that balancing game, we can really, be at the leading front of this particular thing. So,
I mean, if I
philosophical answer, but this is where I see that the world has to go. There is no other way.
try to really relate Indian philosophy, right? So this is a Brahmadan, right? Which Rishi Muni used to have it, and now it is available to each of us to use, right? Anything we create as a banning or any guardrail that we create is like a inhibition you're creating to acquire that wisdom, basically, right? So before coming to Abilash, so one part is key when you are building this guardrail, right? Because now these are so easy to use, right? So in terms of language, conversation, the tools, the UI-based applications for API, basically. So guardrails can't be also such a complex where people will be so frustrated with their guardrails and they will not able to then means that's the problem we always face in security. We build something and the experience goes down, and that's why people then start blaming it and then start finding a ways for that, and that's why entire shadow ID concept has come into picture. So I also believe the shadow LLM would also start coming in. Suppose we put a guardrails which are very stringent in nature and very difficult to deal with, actually.
Yes, you are perfectly right, and these are some of the conditions that we have faced. So, at one of the organization when we have tried to, let's say we created this, and then they said, okay, I'm banning this. Now one user group literally revolted, saying that we are not going to use it. You are expecting me to deliver a 20% of a productivity gain, but the restrictions that you have put up is coming in my way, so I will not able to deliver it. So you don't even give me this LLM, I'm not able to going to deliver 20% improvement. Straight negotiation, right? This was a big failure of having a very stringent thing. So now this, so what happened after that? That was in a closed door discussion, but the summary is that they negotiated on which policy. So user group negotiated to the compliance officer which policy that they are going to be complied to and which not, and that the compliance officer, and then there was a mutual sign off which happens for this one user group. So they realize that both parties need to use it, but it's a discussion. Many of the time there is a lot of information asymmetry. People who want to do the compliance, they don't speak the language of users, and users who are complied with, they don't understand the legal language. So this barrier is very, very difficult, and that is where the compliance or the guardrails have to be, it shouldn't be visible. Let me put it that way. It shouldn't be visible in the normal cases.
Yeah, thank you. And that's a really good, this is really going very good conversation. So, Abilash, I think probably we'll start now concluding because we are already reaching to the time that devised for this session. So Abilash, now from now to coming 6-7 months of time, from the privacy perspective, because there is now certainly DPO community which is coming in, the privacy shaping this discussion and also shaping the technologies that could be useful for them to use it, but while taking care of the obligations and compliance requirement of the privacy.
So this is going to be very, very important when we speak about workload, whether it is for the enterprise or even the words which are being used by the citizen level that we just discussed. It's going to be super critical, especially with the personal data protection bill coming up. It's very important that the user's privacy is used appropriately. When we look at, when I ask ChatGPT in the API, tell me list of 10 people who are in Bannerghatta Road, it is giving me a list today, right, in the API alone. Giving me the address, it's giving. Give me the GPS coordinates, it's giving today. We, as part of our research, as we are doing a couple of products, this is we are seeing today.
Abilash, just to add one more thing, if you ask any person's name with a PAN card, say that give me the Aadhaar card, it is actually giving the Aadhaar card today, because Aadhaar card information was public.
Yeah, and it is also saying that we don't recommend, what we are saying is true or not, we don't know, but we are giving information. We can't guarantee. If you expose it to us, it is your responsibility, right? So this is the biggest problem, and just being a large language model should not get an exception from a fundamental right, which is privacy. I think this is at the core of the tenet, right? It needs to play as per the rule, and rule should not be different for it. If we need to put the right guardrails, whether it be learning or data sharing, I think one of the very fundamental problems here is that how the model learns, and for learning how data is exposed, I think privacy enhancing technologies are going to play a very pivotal role here. And anybody training models or visualizing.
Yeah, so what will be the target? Like you talked about input privacy and output privacy. Here, what it throws is very important, right? So the focus, are we saying that focus should be more on output privacy, or what it delivers is because what it had compiled is very difficult to do that as of now, basically, right? But what it throws as outcome would be something which you can definitely control and can apply some of these kind of expectations there, right?
See, there are both sides of the spectrum, right? You have to apply, so the data needs to be privacy preserved or should meet all the regulatory requirements before it gets exposed to any AI or large language model. So AI Governance Act should be very, very well crafted and defined. What is the automated processing of data, what is allowed and what is not allowed, what level of mathematical guarantees are put in the guardrails while the data is exposed to the algorithmic models is very important. Hence, things like differential privacy, anonymization are very critical. If you look at Tesla, legal document. If you look at ChatGPT's legal documents, all of them are using these technologies. And today we are democrating these technologies to all businesses, not just the big tech. This is going to be a differentiator. Companies who are adopting this are going to succeed, and those who don't will get stuck in legal challenges. So hence businesses have to start adopting privacy enhancing technologies, because once you expose the data to algorithms, you don't know how it is going to learn. So hence you implement pet technologies, then unlock the data for value creation. Whether it be individuals or it be corporates, it's the same. So that's what my thought would be. Sir, we are not able to hear you.
Probably need to
Yeah, Vinayak, you're not
able to
audible.
hear me now? Is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
Yeah. So with this, we probably need to conclude because the time is device is now ending. So, but I know we probably need one or two more discussion like this. And thank you, Manoj, and thank you, Abilash. With you, it's not only the technology or very practitioners we will cover, but we also were able to really express some philosophical. So, and thanks for helping to explore those dimensions. But I hope all these audience joining today would have enjoyed. And if there is any question you have, please feel free to ask those so that we'll put those questions for the next interaction. But Manoj and Abilash, thanks for joining us today and really throwing very interesting nuanced level of understanding and light on this particular topic that everybody of us are either getting overwhelmed or worried or curious, cautious, scared as well. Actually.
Yes.
Thank you, Vinayak, for moderating this session. And thank you, Abilash and Manoj, for joining this session with us today. I hope all the audience has enjoyed this session. This was a very interesting discussion we had today. Looking forward for more discussions ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Have a nice day.